Meow, 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 everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Thank you for listening to me on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm going to talk about PLTR. What happened here? Minus 15% down today, after 8% up today. What is going on? Oh my god, 有冇搞錯啊？豈有此理? Well, let's talk about it. I'm going to talk through, some of the bearish cases, some of the bearish things that I'm seeing, and I'm going to try to dispute them, also show you some things that are more bullish. The first thing first, right? I want to just make it very clear. I'm a long-term investor, Palantir. I'm not really planning on selling for a very long time unless I see something unusual about it. So a lot of people see me charting. They're always kind of wondering, hey, they all automatically they assume that I'm a trader. I'm not. I might do some long-term swing trades. Sometimes I might end up trading accidentally, but I'm not like overall a trader. I do this because there are a few reasons. First of all, I think it's fun. Second of all, I think it's very important to try and identify trend, because if you're interested in a fundamental of a stock, if you think it's a great company, it's doing great things, but the trend is not there, like nobody cares, and there's no money backing behind it, then it doesn't really matter, right? The other thing is also it's almost inevitable for everybody who's in the market, even if you're a fundamentalist, to want to try and figure out what the market psychology is. Even a lot of fundamentalists, they still pull up the chart, they still look at it, and they still try to figure out the trend. They still try to figure out whether or not the stock has bottomed, and they try to apply these market psychology to it. They basically are doing charting, but they're not using formal indicators to try to show, mathematically whether or not it could potentially be a high probability of what it is that they're thinking, right? They can't help it, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I also use it because I want to try to find good support. I want to try and find good entry because I always have more income than greater than expense. I always have money that I need to put into work, and I always try and identify things I can put into based on risk and reward ratio, right? So generally, I don't like to chase. I like to find identify good things that have, maybe a pretty decent trend, or maybe I'm seeing a lot of discrepancies and divergences, things like that. I just want to enter them. So just to clear out, I'm more of a long-term investor guy. I look at mostly weekly chart and monthly charts. I rarely look at daily charts, but I can too if you want me to. And if you look at the daily chart, I can come up quite a few of these bearish cases here right off the bat. I'm going to kind of go through what I'm seeing here. The first thing is, well, besides the fact that it's down 15% today, which is pretty bearish, you also have this big downward move gap down here on relatively pretty high volume over here, right? Another thing that's been pretty bearish in terms of all the people getting worried about the stock is yesterday after hours earnings report was supposed to be a momentum shift, right? It's been going sideways and going down for about 2 or 3 months, and you're looking for the next catalyst to really try to propel the stock up. And you're hoping the earnings is going to be it. I mean, they had a pretty bad, or they had a really good earning last time, and everybody's kind of expecting the same thing. You're going to end up having like God candle coming up again, but it just didn't end up that way. Like MMs, their market makers have really played us hard by running the stock up before earnings, and their earnings were fine. Earnings actually really good, but it still disappoint some people. And next thing you know, it just turned to great fear, and it just had a great, pretty bad sell-off. And the sell-off actually ended up closing close to the session low. So generally, that is a little bit more bearish, and a lot of people think that if that something like that happens, generally it might mean bearish continuation over the next couple of sessions, especially if it happened on high volume, right? Now, a couple other bearish narratives here looking at the chart. If you look at the chart over here on the weekly, you can immediately see that it's only been 2 days into the week, and there's a 3-day rule, so it's very well possible that people are not going to come in and buy for Wednesday and Thursday and just going to kind of let the stock be. So there's a high probability that we're going to end up closing this week candle as a big, giant, bearish engulfing candle on high volume, right? I mean, this week only has 2 days, and volumes are already higher than the last couple of candles. So that's potentially worrisome. Another thing is also that it's just formed a lower high. So in this time frame over here over the last couple of months, it's just formed a lower high. So technically, there really isn't any development or any short-term bull trend. this is still a short-term bear trend as far as you're concerned, right? And also one more thing, if you're into those kind of like formation pattern type things, you can easily see that this potentially could be like a diamond top pattern that sometimes people kind of talk about all the time. You know, where if you see these diamond tops, the conventional wisdom is that they are the top and that you're supposed to have a reversal from here, right? So you can see, I'm not going to draw the rest of the diamond, but you can see how people can interpret this as like a diamond top formation, which supposedly, if you listen to the narrative, is supposed to be bearish. Finally, one more thing is that if you look at the volume shelf, it got rejected by this big giant volume shelf over here. And if you're looking down here, you're really trying to find support down here. You'd be very scared because there's a big volume shelf gap over here. And theoretically, if you drop underneath a certain support level, automatically you're just going to go down to the next volume shelf, right? Which is around 20 bucks, right? You could potentially find pretty good support over here at 20. So a lot of people just automatically assume that it's going to go down to 20 because of the volume shelf. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then one more thing, I kind of want to show you something here. Hopefully I'll be able to draw it here real quick. If not, I'm going to pause the video, but I'm going to draw a fork over here for you. A pitchfork, right? And this pitchfork is going to go from over here to maybe around here. So you can see that this is a pretty decent pitchfork that has touched a lot of points, right? What you're seeing here is, unfortunately you have a little bit of a rejection of this top of this channel over here. You're hoping to get back to the top of this channel. A lot of people are, including myself included, are wondering whether or not I could potentially have a very, very good blowout earning and just end up pushing all the way up top to like 30 bucks, right? It didn't end up doing that. It ended up getting rejected over here at this channel, which happens sometimes. And, because of rejection, you're wondering, hey, is it going to go all the way back down to like 20, 20 and a half, somewhere around there, even wick down lower, or even break down to the next part of the channel, which is going to be like around 17, right? That's kind of the bearish narrative that I can see people talking about. Now, I'm done being a bear. I'm going to talk about the bull cases. I'm going to try to dispute each one of these points. First of all, even though the selling volume today was high, and even though it went down significantly compared to how it went up yesterday, it only went up like 8%, right? Today it went all the way down like 15%. The volume from yesterday is still higher than today. Just because you have a high volume candle doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an establishment of a trend. It's just one candle. And one candle doesn't necessarily make a trend, right? Matter of fact, if you look at the short-term trend, it's been forming higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low over here, after this higher high over here. You can say that this might be a little bit lower low compared to here, but I think this probably whole thing is like up like that. Higher high, higher low, right? Forming a little bit of a trend line going up like that, right? A lot of people are frustrated that we're not able to continue to push the momentum going up higher. And because earnings only come once every 3 months or so, a lot of people are worried that if we lost some momentum, earnings not good. Next thing you know, it just means that we're going to keep going down from here, right? That's the prevailing narrative. But there can be a lot of things that can happen between earnings. Like, for example, next thing you know, PLTR announces they have like a big deal that they sign. Another possibility is that, in the month of June, that's usually when the S&P 500 decides whether or not you're going to end up having any stock inclusion into the S&P 500, and Palantir is a candidate, right? So there are a lot of potential catalysts that may come that are maybe most unexpected, right? So I don't necessarily want to just get frustrated just because of a lack of narrative, because you never know what's going to come. One other thing is, if you're worried that the stock closes at session low and that is going to keep having, some bearish continuation, that's not always the case. There are plenty of examples that didn't end up panning out that way, right? Like, there are plenty of examples that didn't really necessarily pan out that way, So I don't necessarily think that's the case. Now, the higher volume part of it is a little bit concerning, but there are plenty of also, higher volume candle over here that didn't end up necessarily turn out to be, that bad, right? So just because it closes session low doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have bearish continuation, although it can. But that's also a very, very short-term thing. Like, I'm not going to really hang my head on just one daily candle, because a lot of things can happen in between that would make you forget about today. If you're worried about a diamond top, I was showing you the weekly here. If you worry about the diamond top, actually the success rate for these diamond top reversal is not very high. There are actually a lot of books and websites that talk about diamond top. They actually talk about it as a bullish continuation pattern. It's just a sideways consolidation, and the probability of a strong bull trend is still going to be the prevailing trend, which is the bull trend right now. You have a little bit of a diamond looking thing over here too, right? Very diamondy actually, end up having a continuation, right? Next thing you know, end up forming a bigger diamond over here. What happens? Bullish continuation. Now it's forming another diamond. Do you think that's going to end up getting a reversal this time? It could, because I guess if you're into gambling, maybe you had two diamond formations happening. Maybe this one would be a reversal, I guess. But it's not really a good argument that price is going to go down. You have this big bearish engulfing candle over here, right? Well, where did it end over here? It ended right at the bull market support band that was pointing up. Looks like it's finding support over here at the bull market support band. And then let me ask another question. Is the weekly trend bullish or is it bearish? It is bullish. If you pull up the 50 and 100 moving averages, all of those are stacked to the right side. All of this is stacked to the bull side, right? So if you have something like this, it's going to end up favoring bullish continuation. Can price drop down a little bit underneath a rising bull market support band? Sure it can. It did over here. Did it briefly over here, right? I mean, there's no guarantee that it just has to kind of get pushed up from here. But it's interesting how this big giant bearish candle so far is finding support right at the bull market support band. Again, there's no guarantee. There's can always be breaking through. And there's always no guarantee it can always break through further, right? I mean, there are plenty of supports down here. I was just pointing out the volume shelf over here at 20.5, where it found support last time, right? And maybe bottom of this big giant volume shelf over here, maybe 21.2 is going to end up being, pretty decent support. And if it doesn't, it's going to have plenty of support down here, rising 50 over here, like 18.5, right? But right now, because it's right at the bull market support band, I consider this to be at critical support. And when you're at critical support, I generally don't like to be bearish about it, because you're not supposed to be bearish at support, just like you're not supposed to be bullish at resistance, right? And then another thing too about these kind of bearish engulfing candles, there are bearish engulfing candles in the past that just never really pan out. This is technically a bearish engulfing candle over here that didn't work out, right? And then if you just kind of zoom out a little bit more, if you look at around this March 2023 bearish engulfing candle that also didn't work. While you can argue that the volume over here isn't that big, well, neither is this candle over here. The volume actually has spiked over here, right? So if you follow this bearish engulfing candle, you would think that we're just going to keep going down from here, but next thing you know, just a couple weeks later, it's just end up shooting up all the way higher, right? So I wouldn't necessarily count on just because you have bearish engulfing candle, it's just going to end up plummeting down, right? There are a lot of patterns, or at least conventional wisdom, that this has to happen because this is like a engulfing candle pattern. This has to happen because you have like 3 black crows or you have 3 white soldiers. I mean, I can show you I can show you an example of like perfect looking 3 black crows that didn't work out over here, right? I mean, I can also show you an example of like a 3 white soldiers over here that didn't work out. So I wouldn't necessarily just hang my head on a bearish engulfing candle. I actually think that the trend matters more, and the bull market support band, which is the 20-week moving average, included in it. If it's positive pointing, generally it serves as a pretty decent bull trend. Just like it did over here, it serves as a pretty decent bear trend over here and caused a lot of rejections. And it didn't really matter how bullish the candle can look at the time, right? Because the prevailing trend is still down, so it's going to end up favoring downward continuation. So those are kind of my argument points so far. And I'm going to zoom out here to about the 2-week area. I just want to tell you what I saw earlier today. I think that this current pattern over here, as it's touching the rising bull market support band, which included 20-week moving average, this pattern over here looked very, very similar to this pattern over here. We have big giant uptrend, form a little bit of a high over here, form a low, and it's just kind of hugging a rising bull market support band on the way up with a little bit of a whipsaw down here. This whipsaw down here reminds me of this current whipsaw over here, right? And that technically is a bearish engulfing candle, but next thing you know, it's just bigly reversed by a big green candle over here because it's found support at the boring support band to keep pushing price up, right? And if you also just look at the traditional thinking in terms of what makes a bull trend, what makes a sustainable bull trend, in addition to seeing these moving averages, well, it breaks prior resistance over here, right? This resistance dates back all the way over here in 2020 at this horizontal level, at this big giant volume shelf over here. It broke the resistance over here, and next thing you know, you're just basically doing a back test, right? And the back test may not just happen once and you just go from there. Back test sometimes can happen a couple times, knock, and then goes up, right? So far, we're still at some pretty critical horizontal support over here. And even if it goes down a little bit further, it would just be maybe a knock on the support level over here that has been flipped from resistance, which is actually still a bullish pattern, a bullish continuation type constructive type price action, right? And right now it just looks like it's really just building a bunch of energy over here and trying to push above this volume shelf. There are a lot of things, including the bull market support band, that is objectively telling you that this is still a bull trend. Like this is still going to end up going higher after it worked out its technicals over here. I'm going to zoom out to the monthly chart, and as soon as I zoom out to the monthly chart, let me get rid of the volume shelf here. Now, for those people who follow me, you might recognize this pattern over here. It's not perfect because you have a little bit of wick above, and this candle is a little bit above that. But this pattern over here could potentially be what we call a rising three methods. The thought behind rising three methods is that you have a big giant bull candle with a lot of energy being put into it, right? And the bulls just need to take a break, give a chance to see what the bears can do, see whether or not the bears can actually drag it down below this candle over here. Usually 3 is a charm. If you spend about 3 periods and you're still not able to get it down to below the opening of this big giant green candle over here, the prevailing trend is going to be bullish continuation, and it can be quite drastic. This actually happened last time. Like instead of having a rising 3 method, you actually have like a little bit of rising 2 method, where you have big giant green candle here. Bears came in trying to do their thing, did about 2 months, not able to track it down that much further. Bulls sniffed it out and just pushed price a lot higher, right? So you have rising 2 methods over here that has worked out. Does it always have to be rising 3? No. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 5. I'll show you a 5. AMD. Over here, rising 5 methods. Big giant green candle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 inside candles. And the bears are not able to push it down. What happens afterwards? Boom, 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 right? I mean, I hate to use simplistic terms like that, but that's exactly what happened. So getting right back to PLTR, right? What are you going to do? 1, 2, 3 is, what kind of catalyst could you potentially have in June to potentially make this big giant green candle reversal over here? Well, could it be the S&P 500 inclusion? Or is it just going to end up going sideways for another 2 or 3 months until the next earning and then it goes up? I don't know, but all I know is that this is a monthly bull trend. All I know is that if you pull up the Ichimoku cloud, which I'm going to do right now, with the Ichimoku cloud, you get these 2 lines over here. These 2 lines are called the Tenkan or the conversion line, and the Kijun or the baseline, right? You have a cross over here, which basically tells me this is a bull trend. During a bull trend, what happens? Tenkan, the blue line over here, gets flipped from resistance to support, and it keeps on pushing price up higher, and a lot of times it ends up getting back tested as support before further bullish continuation. We just had a back test for the month of April. It looks like a very, very nice back test. And so far, it's just been going sideways. It's doing a whole lot of nothing. But if you look at the greater trend, if you look at what the Tenkan is doing, and if you look at what price is doing in relation to the Tenkan, this is a bull trend. It's been forming higher high and higher low and higher high, and it's just forming a higher low. I don't know how far the higher low is. Could that wick on the Tenkin could be it? Possible. Could it go underneath the Tenkin? Possible. It's still going to be an inside candle over here on this big giant volume inside candle over here, and it's still going to be some kind of bull flag. And I think the Tenkin could potentially also serve as pretty decent support to shall we need it, which is around 24.59 right now. I think the monthly Tenkin should serve as a pretty decent long-term support over here. Around 20.59 is a potentially pretty decent support. The other way to look at trend, I mean, just look at the Bollinger Band. Like it's not even a dispute. It's a bull trend. A 20-month moving average continues to point up. The trend change just happened about 9 to 10 months ago, and I think we might still be at a beginning to mid part of the bull trend because of this very, very nicely positive slope 20-month moving average that doesn't really look like it's really necessarily slowing down anytime soon. Another thing I want to show you, I'm just going to take all of this. What about the volume? Are we seeing any potential bullish divergences or anything like that? Let's pull up something called the on-balance volume. What you're really seeing here is on-balance volume tells you whether or not there's any bearish momentum or bullish momentum based on any potential divergences, right? So if you pull up the OBV on balance volume, you try and look and see if there's any divergences. The answer is yeah, there are actually some divergences here as price goes up like that. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. It's more like a curve, right? The price goes up like that. What's going on with the unbalanced volume? Unbalanced volume has been going down. It doesn't really make sense. When there is imbalance between price going up and volume going down, that usually means there's a lot of bullish energy that's still being built up over here. Now, one very important thing to see is that, yeah, we actually did have a bearish divergence not long ago. We have a bearish divergence right here when price just going up and unbalanced volume was going down. That also didn't make sense. That's why we're suffering through a correction right now, because we're trying to work out this bearish divergence. I think the bearish divergence already got worked out. What is left right now is the bullish divergence that I was showing you. There are some energy that's left here. A lot of energy is being built up in terms of rising 3, in terms of the bull market support band, and also in terms of the unbalanced volume. There's a lot of bullish setup here for Palantir that's going to take a lot of time to work out. Now, you might see a lot of comments saying, oh, Palantir is going down to 20, it's going down to 18, it's going down to 16, it's going to end up closing a bunch of gaps. You might read all that crap, right? And it's possible, like there's a big giant daily gap down here all the way at like 17 point something. It could end up going down and closing it, sure. But I just, even if it does that, there's no damage done on the greater trend. Like on the greater trend, this is still a very, very bullish trend. If you're a long-term investor, the further price goes down, the better opportunity we have. I have been buying for a very, very long time. And right now, initially when I was buying over here, I made myself a rule. I was like, I'm not going to buy anything above 21 because 21 is going to be a very, very important level. Like 20 to 21 is going to be a very, very important level. If it goes above 20 to 21, I'm not going to buy anymore. I catch myself buying because I keep seeing good fundamental changes. I keep seeing earnings keep getting better and better, even though it might not be like a straight exponential growth, quarter to quarter. But I keep seeing every single quarter the trend is going better and better. This is going to be a pretty powerful company. This is going to be a pretty influential company. And their revenue growth is very good. Their number of customers they're coming in are very good. They are at the infant stage of their profitability. They have a lot of cash coming in. They have a very stable part of a business with the government. And they also having these exponential growth when it comes to the number of customers on the commercial side. I'm seeing a big giant bull flag over here. I'm seeing it potentially back testing, in 2021 around the level around here, which has already happened last month. It looks like it might do it again. I am going to find this as a potentially pretty decent entry because unlike some other people where they might get bullish at resistance, I get more bullish at potential support. Is the support going to hold? It may not. Am I going to go all in? No, because I don't know whether or not the support is going to hold. But am I going to end up feeling comfortable scaling in? When is that support? Yes. That's kind of how I think we're supposed to think about things. So is the minus 15% down today actually a blessing? It is a blessing to me because I didn't buy at 25. Anyway, I think it's going to go back to 25, 30, all-time high at 45. I think it's going to end up going a lot higher. If you ask me for what my target is for Palantir, I'm going to straight up tell you this is not the exact drawing of Fibonacci levels, right? I'm only doing a rough drawing here, but even if I do a rough drawing here, I'm expecting to hit somewhere around the 1.618 to 2.618 Fibonacci level, extension levels. So you're talking about either, like $70 or right about like 3 digits. That's kind of what I'm thinking. When do I think it's going to happen? The way that it's going right now? Maybe 3 to 5 years. I can see that. It's pretty good gains. I'm not going to complain. Anyway, I'm done talking. Have a good one. Bye.